I could have just, I should have just sent him a message to be like, I know your sister. I know it's trying not to be weird. I loved your book. You should be in here talking about
a few
it.
minutes because I
If
gotta
we
clean
pick
up
a
my
model
screen.
for the next
I'll be
one,
back. I
get
won't turn
Will
off my
in here.
headset.
All right,
Yeah.
dude.
All right, guys, welcome back
I should.
to our second book club meeting.
Please.
I see a lot of familiar faces, which is great, and I see some new people, which is also great. We are going to be discussing today Ready Player One, which I personally love. Your face, if you liked it, let's see some emojis, some hearts, some claps. If you enjoyed listening or reading the book, looks like we've got most of everybody liked that. That's great. So what we're going to do today is I've got some discussion points I'd like to go over with you guys on the book, which is going to be a super awesome discussion because it's all VR and we're in VR. So it's going to be really, really cool to go over some of the topics of the book. Please note, if you have not finished the book yet or reading, more than likely be some spoilers. So just to kind of give you a warning, we may talk about the ending a little bit because the ending's kind of significant. So hopefully you guys all read or don't mind the spoiler. After we go over some Ready Player One stuff, we're going to go over our new books. I'll let you guys know what's up there. We'll do our vote for the second book, and then we'll come back in 2 weeks after that, and we'll go ahead and discuss the next book. Was 2 weeks a good time frame for you guys to get it either listened to or read?
I would prefer a month. I wasn't able
A
to
month?
get it done. Yeah.
Okay.
I think it depends on the size of the book. Like, you know, if it's a
True.
gigantic book. And Ready Player One's pretty good size, you know.
Yes.
It's a decent size. I think it also depends on whether or not the book's available on Audible, because I think that one people can kind of go through a little quicker. They can listen in their car
Very big deal
or
for me.
yes. So I try to pick almost all books that are available Audible because I know there are some people that would rather listen instead of read because they're just too busy to sit down and do nothing for a couple hours and read. I listen to them in my car. I listen while I'm at work. I listen while I'm cleaning my house. So it was only one of our books that isn't available on Audible, and that's only because it's on a discounted price, which I'll go over when we go over the books. Try to keep everything, you know, don't have to spend $20 on a book. So I take that into consideration for you guys too. So we'll go ahead and get started with some discussion points of Ready Player One. All right. So this is going to be a VR type related question. So Wade, who's of course our main character, who I absolutely loved Wade, he describes the 21st century as, and I quote, the dawn of a new era, one where most of the human race now spend all of their time inside a video game. Is this a world that you guys would want to live in? And if so, why? If not, why not? And if you have a question, just raise your hand and I'll go ahead and kind of call you one by one.
If you don't have him.
Do the emoji one. Just give me one of
Okay.
these.
Sorry.
No problem.
One of those Hiles. See, Kyle.
Squiggle.
What's up, baby?
Hey.
You got a really cute voice, by the way.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Matt, you had your hand up? Did you?
Yeah, I was thinking like the VR world was obviously amazing, but the real world really, really sucked.
I agree.
I don't think, you know, I mean, having a nice balance between the two would be really, really nice. I would hate to be forced to live in the VR world because you didn't have much of an option. As cool as the VR world would be, I mean, I still like real life stuff, you know? And, you know what I mean? I don't know, living in the stacks and like people starving and like the dangers and the security people had to have. That's, you know, quite obnoxious. And yeah, well, I never read that one, but if you can't, you know, I don't know, it's just, you're forced to live in the VR world, and if you didn't do well, you know, you're just, you know, on the streets. You know, you don't have any other option. You know.
So you'd rather have a choice to either live in the real world, with VR is kind of like a second place to go, versus like that being your only choice.
Oh yeah, and you know, I love the concepts of, you know, education and, you know, working in certain fields and stuff, and being able to like type and like, effectively work in VR is really cool. But that world really sucked, outside of VR.
Government food vouchers,
Yeah, all that,
armored buses because you might get robbed. Those are types of things I personally don't want to experience. So if I had to ride an armored bus, I'd probably pee myself. That definitely not. No, don't want that part. The Oasis, though, was very, very cool. And I agree with you. I think that if we were able to do VR schools now, I think kids would learn things and actually keep their attention. They can do,
absolutely. Be like,
virtual
think about
field
it.
trips.
Yeah, where do you want to go today, kids? Here, instead of seeing a video of it, you can take them to a physical location. Or instead of like trying to draw some crappy thing on a projector, you could like put it in 3D,
Right. We're going to do the human heart today. Let's go inside of it virtually and go through the valves and, things like that. And I think that would be fantastic. I think like there should be someone doing that somewhere, working on a VR school.
I was thinking of taking some of my X-ray students that get confused by certain things, taking them into one of the drawing rooms and like drawing out like, some medical stuff for them that they can see in three-dimensional space. It'd just be a lot easier to understand than just looking at a diagram. I don't know. It's just so much you can do when you integrate 3D.
Cody, you have a question or comment?
Well, I've been on my other phone right now. I'm using my other phone for books and stuff. And I can't afford this right now. So I would only be able to do it next week. So I don't know if can you try to pick free books next time?
I do try to pick some books that are easier to get, or that are available with a free trial, or with a Kindle Unlimited subscription, or ones that are a little bit on the cheaper side. So I'll definitely go over. I actually have prices and formats for all of the books that are over there, so I'll make sure to go over those with everybody too. Did anybody else want to comment on living in Wade's world? Which sounds like Wayne's World, but it's not.
Such an appropriate
I will go on
book,
to the. Yes,
Everybody
absolutely.
liked it.
That's great. We'll go ahead and go on to the next. What we're going to do today, we'll go on to the next topic. I've got some discussion how points, many people in here? Okay, I was
stuff.
born in the 80s, which meant that I'm a 90s person. I grew up in the 90s. I did everything in the 90s. How many people here, by a show of emojis, actually were born before 1980 and so therefore lived through the 80s and can actually remember the 80s? Because I was like 5. All right. So
old guys.
look at all the old guys. Love all the old guys.
I wasn't born before, but I remember them.
So with all of the 80s nostalgia in
somewhat.
here, all of the pop
Somewhat.
culture, and video games, computers, music, even the way he describes Holiday's bedroom. Did this bring back like nostalgia feelings for all you guys? And did you appreciate the way that Ernest Cline described the 80s? Yes, Matt.
So I had a reaction where I actually thought particularly the war games part. I thought if you weren't from the 80s or you didn't see that movie, it would make no sense at all to you. Because it didn't provide enough detail that you could fully appreciate what was going on. So I really am curious what someone who is a teenager today, if they read this book, if they even fully understand what's going on. And that really interested me. So because the full context is not provided. So you
That's
true.
true. There was a lot of things that I remembered kind of, or TV shows he mentioned that while I wasn't old enough to have watched them when they came out, I saw them on Nick at Night. So I kind of knew what they were. So I caught most of the references. As far as Atari and things, I was kind of a little too young for the whole Atari thing.
Wow.
So
you missed out.
I know, I'm young. I
Yes, you
know.
missed
I
out.
know.
Oh, I did not.
And a lot of the arcade games I
did
had
not
never
miss out,
seen
yes.
before. So when he was describing the way that the arcade games work, I'm kind of trying to picture some pixelated, dragon or pixelated ostrich, which apparently that's a
But
thing.
look it up and be
Yes.
prepared for disappointment.
I know.
Because that's
I'm sure they're very
pixelated
crude.
is an understatement.
Disappointing
He's put-
fun though.
that you could spend hours on.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, when we were kids,
the
it
high
was
score.
it was a totally new thing. You know, it was
Yeah.
like VR is today, kind of. It's like this is totally unique. You know, it's like we had nothing.
Spend hours
like
in the arcade playing, putting the
yeah,
cartridge in.
hitting two buttons. You know,
Yeah.
it was
Moving
A
just to make
joystick
some.
and like what, a fire
Joystick,
button?
that's exactly it.
Yeah,
You have the
pretty
joystick
much.
And you're all tap, 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 and yeah.
I mean, yeah. I mean, something that with fewer pixels than what's in the end of my finger. You know,
So-
it was nuts.
Anyone who's like was not born in the 80s, someone who was born in the 90s or even the 2000s that might not have ever seen the shows or seen an Atari game. Yes, I'm looking at you, Shauna. Did it give you an appreciation or an interest in the 80s, or were you kind of just breezing by some of the pop culture references? Hello?
I thought it was cool, from what I've read so far.
Yeah? Did it kind of make you want to look into things a little bit more about the 80s, or did it make you kind of want to, like, what the heck is Joust? Were they riding ostriches? I don't understand. Because I didn't. I'm like, what? They're ostriches? I don't get it. So for me, it's kind of like, it was definitely interesting to see things from Halliday's perspective through it. Anyone else have any comments on the 80s?
The 80s were amazing, that's for sure.
They were amazing and also not amazing. It was like, I mean, yeah, like we were playing things on like, here's a pixel and 2 pixels are my sword and the other pixel is my head. And, but it's like, I was pretty young too, but.
Don't forget Pong on the
In
Atari.
terms of feeling like
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
people, like
But don't forget Zork, which they mention in there, right?
Mhm.
Just text,
Oh, yeah.
you know.
Well, I played plenty of text games too. It's like they were so shitty, but so good. But that's all we had,
I think I played
Oh, no.
Oregon Trail in like kindergarten
yeah.
on this big, huge white computer with a massive keyboard.
Constantly dying of
Yes, dysentery. Exactly, and like my
Shannon
ox
has
kept
died of
dying.
dysentery. And then all you did was hunt, and you only had like 20 minutes, and you never get to complete the game. It's been,
my ox would
Although
always
I
die.
think the point that Halliday's trying to make with that is that if it weren't for the creation of all these video games in the 80s, we wouldn't be where we were today. That was kind of the beginning of the gaming revolution, I guess you can call it, that led to us being able to be in VR today.
If you recall, video gaming was almost entirely killed with the saturation of very, very subpar games for
Absolutely.
not Avatar.
the
Atari.
Atari, excuse me, thank you. Yeah, there's actually a documentary on Netflix, and they talk about that. They even go into depth about the horrible E.T. game.
Oh, it was so true though, because you get this cassette and it would have the most amazing art on it, and there was no review system. Nobody wrote anything about these games, so you'd get this like beautiful art on the cover of this like box, and you put it in, and it'd be the shittiest game ever. And sometimes it'd be named after things, like E.T. Like, well, E.T.'s a great movie, and the Superman for Atari, they're horrible. There were so many bad games, and then you'd have to hear about the good games through like the network of friends, and there was no internet to talk to people. So if your friends weren't into like video games, you'd be like just buying these shitty games, and like, I have this gigantic collection. You pull out this drawer, and all your friends would come over and be like, "What shitty game do you want to play?" There'd be one good game out of 100.
See, I didn't do the whole video game thing until, Nintendo, like the original Nintendo. That's when based on my age, when I started playing video games. So, I was all Super Mario all the way.
Oh, well, the Nintendo saved the gaming community.
By far.
Oh yeah, I mean Zelda and Mario, and yeah, they really did, and that was what we really needed.
Hey,
All right, so we'll move on to the next topic. So you mentioned a little bit earlier about the way the real world was outside of the Oasis, and we talked briefly on that. Based on how our world is right now, do you see us heading in that direction to where technology is going to be the major factor in our lives, and anything else outside of that is going to be just basically crap? I mean, granted, this is 40 years, 30 years in the future, which actually isn't that far away.
What was
What
it,
do you guys think?
2040, right? 2040 to
Yes.
45.
Practically speaking, it kind of is. It kind of is already that situation.
And I can't
How many kids
afford
want to
this
go and read a
right
book?
now.
They want their
Network of
their
friends.
iPad.
I mean,
They-
Zelda
they-
and Mario.
Mm-hmm.
High tech is life, apparently. So.
Well,
Sorry, I should've-
well, I don't know.
No, that's a good point.
Renewables are becoming more and more prevalent. I mean, granted, climate change and stuff, if that doesn't run away super badly, I mean, we might be all right. Maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm optimistic though.
It's
I mean, I
amazing
think
that-
part of. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
It's amazing that they let their society go to pot, but they kept the internet live and vibrant.
Because Will Wheaton was president.
This is true.
Oh, spoiler. You guys didn't read that part yet?
I remember listening to it and then going back and being like, he just said his own name, didn't he?
Yeah.
That was fantastic.
That's why I asked him. I asked his sister. I was like, "Why isn't he in the movie?" He was like mentioned in the book. He's friends with the author, and the author, like, part of the deal was when he was making the movie, he said he wanted to write the script, right? So it's like, why isn't Will Wheaton at least like a cameo?
In the movie? Yeah.
Yeah,
That would be
he's not.
fantastic.
Narrator.
He should narrate it.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, be the narrator.
Yeah.
That wouldn't be asking too much. He could. I mean, Will Wheaton's not the best actor, but he could narrate it just fine.
Just
you know?
because we'd be like, that voice.
It's like, well, you know what? Hook your buddy up. If you're the author and you're writing the screenplay, you think you could at least, throw him a bone or something. You know, what's Will Wheaton done, like, of any major significance? I don't know. I think it would be cool.
I think it would be too. Now, do you guys think that while Ernest Cline managed to kind of glamorize VR, that he was maybe a little bit anti-VR?
Cautionary, maybe.
Yeah.
Ponder.
What about, and sorry for anyone who hadn't finished it, but the end, when he hands over power and he gives Wade the red button. What do you think he's trying to portray there?
Well,
Kill himself.
no, it wasn't to kill himself. It's just like if there's so much power in the Oasis, and if even for reasons that might not even be around today, they might be around tomorrow or the next day. I mean, the Sixers, if they had gotten power, red button, boom, but or something,
Exactly.
if it had became something other than what it was intended for, something evil perhaps, I sound pessimistic now, but it's kind of nice to have a way out if things got way too nuts. And like I said, it doesn't have to be anything that was even mentioned. It's the stuff you can't think of,
Right, and there's also that whole scary, like, undertone in the book that there's this one company that controls all the internet. And this one company is kind of the government, because the government seems fairly non-existent. And the entire, everything that happens kind of revolves around IOI. So when Wade decides that he needs to change his identity and, let himself be captured and, so he can get inside of IOI systems, that's a company, an internet company that literally has agents that will come arrest you and make you work for them probably for the rest of your life
Oh,
so that they can get their money. So there's this scary undertone here, kind of about big business and in how they're going to be able to control the country. So that's definitely something to think about too. That while IOI is the big bad guy, but it's kind of something to think about there about the business being able to control people like that. Let's see. What do you guys think is the significance of Halliday putting the first key on Ludus? Let's get some other people. Shauna, you've read that far, right?
What?
You've read to the first key, right? See? Yes? Maybe?
No.
Okay.
Oh my.
I've read. I'm on page 52.
Okay.
Ooh.
Megan,
Life is hard.
what do you think is the significance of of Halliday putting the key on Ludus? I think he did that for a reason, or was that just some random place?
Well, no, I think it's like they said in the book, he wanted a student to find it. He didn't want it run by IOI. He wanted a normal kid who, Oasis was their life to find it.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think it's kind of that whole Charlie and the Chocolate Factory thing, that they wanted someone new, someone refreshing, someone with ideas. Obviously we know the Gunters were very anti-Sixer. And I think that's kind of what he was looking for, is someone who's anti-IOI to be able to run the Oasis, even though IOI is providing the internet for it.
Someone pure and outside of the system.
Mm-hmm.
Relatively speaking, anyway.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks, Megan. Sorry to put you on the spot. As far as characters, did you find any of the characters to be at all stereotypical or cliche, or do you think they were all kind of new and refreshing? For me, I thought that H, the whole hiding the identity of H thing, of the true H, was
My favorite.
yes, I thought that was a fantastic surprise and was probably the most original, I think, out of all the other characters.
And you're
Just
big
based on
spoiler
that
too, by
big
the way.
surprise. Yes. Trying not to be too spoilerific over here, but
I had some guesses, and I was not way off, but pretty damn far. Shut laughing. No, I knew something was weird, obviously. I had my predictions. I was pretty far off.
yes.
Loved it.
What do we?
Loved it, though. Yeah.
No, Holiday is dead.
Oh, okay.
We know that
I
for sure.
screamed when I read that part. I was so happy.
Right. I thought it was so cool.
It-
And what about Artemis and her lack of self-confidence about her face? We know her avatar looks pretty much like how she does in real life, with that one big exception, but she seemed very, very insecure about that whole thing. Do you think, what do you think about her as a character?
I think she
I don't know.
relates most to people in VR because a lot of us have self-confidence issues, but when we come on VR, our personalities come out. We're hiding, our physical appearance, and I think that's what she was doing.
It's pure personality, right? That's what
We
they said.
mask
Yeah.
ourselves with our avatars and only portray the parts of ourselves that we want to.
Right, because when she comes online with her blog and with what she was doing, she was totally kick-ass. She was an awesome chick, but she was so down on herself in real life, and I think that she's also a very relatable character just based on that alone, because she really was pretty kick-ass when she,
Oh yeah.
found the
Do you
first
think?
key.
Do you think they
and-
kind of overdid it a little bit?
Excuse me.
The whole her
No.
not like when he found out and sent he's saw a picture of her and sent it to her and be like, here's what they have on you, get out, leave your family, get out. And she's like, did you look at my picture? And it's like, dude, I'm saving your life. Get
Right, and
over
she's
it.
like,
I
why'd
know,
you look
I
at
know
my
you're-
picture? Yeah.
And he's like, oh, I'm sorry, I was too busy saving your life.
hell is
I'm
that?
sorry.
They're outside.
Is that Sean? Anyway, you know what I mean? It's like,
Who is that, and where are they?
Or mute yourself. Appreciate it.
is that Dean?
I'm gonna mute everybody, and hopefully it gets whoever that
I think
is
someone got him.
muted.
It's Dean.
Okay.
I don't know. Did anybody else feel that there was a little bit over, or maybe?
I
because
knew,
think her
like,
self-confidence was that low.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean that could be
That
true.
was her main concern.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I imagine when you're that big into VR, and it's that big of a world in that type of environment, I could absolutely see where somebody would be that much more separated from your real life to your VR life. But I don't know. To me, it just seemed a little bit. I'm not saying a ton, just maybe a smidge.
right. I think a lot of that
Well,
comes
I
from the
mean,
fact that
age
she's
was
just
too.
out of high school.
Oh yeah.
And the world that they live in is definitely harder than ours is. So, even something, it was a birthmark. I had a feeling there was something different about her the whole time. You know, obviously they kind of hint at that the whole time, not really knowing what it is till the end or till close to the end. But and I kind of forgot where I was going with that topic. I don't know. Someone else.
At least it wasn't a dude. That would have kind of dude in the basement where they kept
That
joking
would have
about
been
it.
so awkward.
Are you a dude living in your mom's basement? Please no.
All right, let's see.
But the way Will Wheaton read it when he identified H, though, that one part, I don't want to spoil it.
I know, like I want to say
fine.
so
Just
much on
spoil
that, but
Just
I mean, is it okay if I say it? I mean, or you guys can mute
hold on.
me.
I will take
Yeah, just-
my earphones out and wave at me when it's okay to come back.
Okay. When,
Great. All right.
when
I
he
think
says,
it's significant.
when he says a fat black chick, he's like, I didn't picture you this way, like a fat black chick, and he's like, it was just the way he read it. I laughed so hard in my car, I almost crashed. It was like, oh my god, a fat black chick. Just and that other scene where Artemis says, she's like, damn, when she realized that he had gotten the first key or something, he's like, oh damn. Oh, I laughed. I remember exactly where I was because it was my driveway, but I would have crashed if I was driving. It was too good.
It was really good. A lot of the surprises, the indenturement thing though, that was pretty crazy. I didn't know that this 18-year-old kid, there was really no hinting at it at the beginning because he kind of like, you know, he rigged his little van and the stacks and all that, but there was no hint really that this kid could hack like that. You know, it kind of, almost for me, the whole hacking part came a little bit out of nowhere. Where he just kind of like, oh yeah, I got these codes and I'm just going to hack into the system and I'm going to do all this stuff.
Learned quite a bit, you know, basically like up to a bachelor's or a greater, and he's 18, but you know, I don't know. I mean, that was a little bit mildly on the hokey side for me, but you know, if the kid's bright and he's really into it, maybe.
that part threw me for a loop because I was like, wait a minute, did I miss a chapter? Why all of a sudden is he like people pounding on his door and him
Like, why is he getting arrested?
and all that?
Yeah.
I was like, wait, what did I miss?
And why is he being arrested by an insurance provider? I mean, that was a little odd too. There's some bad people,
Credentials.
right? What about the explosion in the stacks? How'd that make you guys feel?
Oh, pissed.
Oh, I was kind
I
of
was
like, I got to that
sad.
point and I was like, oh shit, this is for real right now. Like that was when it all kind of was like, this shit's for real. At
Even a
that
little
moment.
scared for the poor guy, for Wade, you know? I was like,
Yeah.
I'm a little, you know, like, what's he gonna do? He's totally screwed, you know?
Yeah.
So that was really well written part.
That was, and I'm waiting, and they're like, nothing happened. I'm like, oh, they're not gonna do it. And all of a sudden, he just like drops the bomb, and I'm like, oh my god, they did it! I couldn't believe they actually like this insurance provider blew up his house. It was insane. So what is everyone's favorite part? The all-time. You had to pick one scene in the entire book that was your absolute favorite. What was it?
Mechagodzilla.
I think
Mechagodzilla.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool.
I think it was his plan when he broke in and got all the IOI information. I think that whole thing was just genius.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That whole chapter.
Mm-hmm. That was so good.
Well, so far I haven't finished reading it, so I'll let you know when I do.
Well, what's your favorite part so far?
Well, so far I do kind of like the explosion because just the way that it hits you, like you said. But I don't know. I like trying to think. I thought the chapter. I just got done listening to the whole back and forth between Wade and what's her name there, going back and forth, talking about learning each other. That was kind of interesting.
Artemis.
Artemis, thank you. I had a brain block, I'm sorry. It's been a long night. I should be laying down sleeping right now. But, yeah, the whole book has been pretty interesting so far. So,
I think one of my favorite parts is when after he moves and he's got his little hotel / apartment and he's explaining all of the things that he has set up, his haptic suits, and the way he's got his little Max guy who, talks trash to him, and the way he described
want a
his
Max.
chair and his
Do you
routines
guys
and how he has
remember
to
Max Headroom?
exercise.
Max. Headroom.
Yeah, Matt does.
With the stuttering and everything. Yep.
Yeah.
I think that was so cool, the way he just described how he set this up, how his entire room was VR based, and that he was like, I have to exercise for an hour or my VR won't let me into the Oasis and
That was
and all
great
this
how
stuff.
he
I thought
set
that was like, yeah, I thought that was so cool, the way he had like the technology of everything he had set up in his little apartment. That was really cool. What about our favorite character? I know I mentioned that I loved H, but that Artemis was pretty badass. Do we have any other favorite characters that aren't? I mean, Wade can be your favorite if you want Wade, but anybody else want to?
I'm trying to think anybody but Wade.
I know, that's what I'm trying to think. I don't know. I like H. I like H's personality.
What about Shoto and
And Daito or whatever.
Daito?
Daito.
Yep.
Dude, wasn't that sad? I mean,
That
when he
was sad.
describing
Yeah.
The whole thing. That was-
But they were very like, oh,
and it pissed you off.
they
too,
fight with
didn't it?
honor.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
they
didn't
were-
it just piss you off when he told that story? You were like, those motherfuckers.
They reminded me of Tanabe. Like Shoto reminded me of Tanabe. He's like really
They were very,
nice and really smart and
Well, you could feel the bond between these guys, even through like the short little bit they were in there for, Like,
Yeah.
they weren't, especially when he was describing his brother, and he's like, they weren't really brothers and they never met, but they were like as close as any family, And I really
Right,
felt
and-
that through the.
I feel like they mentioned it a couple of times too, but I feel like they were really actually and truly honorable. They didn't really try any backwards tactics to try to like scooch underneath anyone. They just were like, we're just gonna work together and we're gonna get the key and we're gonna win, and that was it. No tricks, no foul play. They were very very honorable and kind of like they were like the really good guys. You kind of rooted for them, but rooted for Wade at the same time.
I kind of liked Og. I mean,
Og.
it's kinda
Og was obnoxious, but I loved him.
But
Yeah,
like,
and I don't think Will Wheaton read
reminds
this
me
part
of
very well.
like the relationship with Jobs and Wozniak. That whole paradigm between the two, between him and Holiday. I don't know.
I think I didn't like the way Will Wheaton read his part. Hey, how's it going? But I think that was, if there's a fault of Will Wheaton, it's how he read Og's part.
he was running out of voices.
I mean, to be
Yes.
fair, I read
Pulled out
I actually
his
bought
book.
the paperback and read it through paperback, and then the second time for book club, I listened to it through Audible, and so when I read it through paperback, I did the voice the exact same way.
Oh, you did? Okay.
I was like, oh, yeah, I did it the exact same way in my head. So to be fair to Will Wheaton, I read it as like a kind of a bumbling buffoon kind of guy as well. So I mean, what can I say?
It's kind of a higher voice like I do, so it's kind of hard
To get that low, yeah. That's the one thing that bothers me the most in Audible books is when there's a character that they're trying to do the voice for, but they have a voice either too high or too low, and they try to go either the opposite of whatever they are. I read a book once where this guy had like a very deep, raspy voice. You guys know Oddity, right? Ever heard Oddity
Yes.
talk? And he's got that deep, low, raspy voice. Yeah. So it's your boy. Yep. So he tried to portray this female character in a book that I was listening to, and the female character was like 22. So you know that she sounds like Shauna. And but he tried to do the voice with this raspiness and made it sound like a 60-year-old chain smoking lady. So it didn't work for me, and I actually it's exactly what it sounded like. So actually I couldn't get into the Audible because I'm like, I can't listen to this 22-year-old chick sound like a 60-year-old chain smoker. It just ruined the whole entire Audible book for me. Luckily, it was a free one, so I didn't have to pay for it. And I'm not going to mention the title because I don't want to trash talk any books. But But we'll wait and tried. He definitely did. But there's some voices I feel like he could have maybe done a little bit better. But
It was a little bit monotone at parts, but I mean, I've listened to some very monotone, shitty readers. So compared to them, he did wonderful. But I definitely had some better readers than Will. But I think he just did a pretty damn good job.
Yeah,
Well,
for being
maybe
in
it's
the
just
era
me,
and
but I
everything.
think the way he read it, in my mind, kind of the mannerisms matched my image of how the person, how they would sound.
Yeah.
Well, I kind of pictured Wade as kind of like a Wesley Crusher, very intelligent, little goofy, So it did fit in that sense.
I got more of like an awkward feel, like a. Dang it, I can't think of what I'm saying. He doesn't talk to too many people as much as he probably should, so there's not as much inflection.
A little socially awkward.
Yes, exactly.
A little. But he was like a chunky kid. He even got picked on in VR. Remember?
Yeah, which totally fits Will Wheaton, by the way. I'm just gonna say it.
Point made.
I should have contacted him and told him to come in here. It would have been really cool.
You know what? You still maybe can, because I did put Armada up there as one of our options. So
And he read that, and I haven't listened to that yet.
he narrated Armada as well, which actually that's a good segue into our books for next meeting. So why don't we go head over in front of the books?
Oh, crap. I missed the whole discussion on this book.
Okay.
Oh my God.
So.
Oh, I've read most of these.
Oh no. Well, we have to read them again.
Yeah, no,
Go ahead
the
and-
Dresden Files, that is the beginning of a very long series.
It is,
like
and it's
16
just
books deep.
it's well,
Yes.
16's coming out soon.
it
It's
16
just
coming
kind
out
of I mean, I've read the entire series. It's my favorite book series. That's why
Oh,
it's
me
there.
too.
I'll be honest.
Totally. I'm with you. I loved it, but it is a huge commitment.
Yes. But I
they're
mean, you
short.
can still
They're short.
Yes,
You
they're
know?
not long books at all. So that's the benefit of this one. So we'll start over here with Sacrifice. So guys, I picked this one because it's October and Halloween's coming up. So I figure we throw some really scary, creepy shit in.
I've never
So basically,
read a really good scary book. What can I get?
I haven't read it,
Oh.
but it's like
Here, take
a
mine.
4. It's it's like a 4.7 out of
doesn't
5
work.
stars rated on
Really?
Amazon, and it's available for Kindle format and paperback only. So no Audible on this one, guys. But it's not a very long book.
I'll hold it up.
Part of
for
the
you.
reason I selected this one
Thanks.
as our horror one is because right now, if you have Kindle Unlimited, it's free for unlimited, but also it's 99 cents for the next 3 days. So a very cheap book to buy for
What is
Kindle
it on
format.
Audible?
There's no Audible for this one yet.
Oh, I'm done.
So, but it's the cheaper option for those who want to vote for it. After the 3 days, it only goes up to $2.99, so it's still going to be cheap even after that. But I'll give you guys a brief description of what it is. So, well, yeah, but it's really tiny and I can't read it.
I can't.
All right. So,
So can you
30
read
years
this?
ago, 6 high school friends banded together to confront the
Sorry.
woodsman, a murderous specter whose prey was children. None of the friends will ever forget the horror of those weeks or blood-chilling image of the woodsman. Now the 6 have returned to town for a long overdue reunion, except the woodsman hasn't finished with them yet. As a new nightmare unfolds, ripping open old scars and inflicting fresh terror, what will each of them have to sacrifice this time to keep the children safe and the woodsman at bay? So that is kind of our suspenseful horror thriller one.
No, I know.
But a good option again is it's one of the cheaper options that we have. Okay, let me pull up my next one.
I'm watching you. I like that book.
I am watching you. This one also, if you have Kindle Unlimited, it is free. It is also available let me see if it's available on Audible yet, because it wasn't last time. Yes, it's only $1.99 for the Audible, so it's a cheap one. It's free for Kindle Unlimited, or $4.99 for the Kindle format. So it's still a cheap book. Again, this is kind of more of the suspenseful thriller type. Again, Halloween's coming up, so I thought it was appropriate. We had a couple of those out. I know you guys were here last week. You've already heard the description, but we do have some new people. So I will read through it again. Again, this one is a 4.4 star rated, so it's still got good ratings.
Yeah,
I'm trying to find the shorter description because I don't want to read an entire book to you guys. All right, so when Ella Longfield overhears two attractive young men flirting with teenage girls on a train, she thinks nothing of it until she realizes they are fresh out of prison and her maternal instinct is put on high alert. But just as she's decided to call for help, something stops her. The next day, she wakes up to the news that one of the girls, beautiful green-eyed Anna Ballard, has disappeared. A year later, Anna is still missing. Ella is racked with guilt over what she failed to do, and she's not the only one who can't forget it. Someone is sending her threatening letters that make her fear for her life. Then an anniversary appeal reveals that Anna's friends and family might have something to hide. Anna's best friend, Sarah, hasn't been telling the whole truth about what really happened that night, and her parents have been keeping secrets of their own. Someone knows where Anna is, and they're not telling, but they are watching Ella. So kind of a kidnapping story, missing persons type deal, and available in all formats. I'm not partial to this one, but you guys know it's my favorite author.
Oh, I am very partial. I love this is my favorite.
On a
series.
side note, and not to get anyone's hopes up, but I am really excited about this. I wrote Jim Butcher's personal assistant because I participate in National Novel Writing Month every year, and Jim Butcher has previously done some pep talks. Doing a nano event throughout the month of November, and here reached out to his personal assistant, who's actually going to discuss with him about coming into VR in the Outspace to do some writing workshops. So that is super cool. Hopefully I'll have good news on that. But he is huge on helping people. He's got a live journal with all kinds of the ways that he writes and tips on writing. So I'm probably going to fangirl so hard if he comes
settle down
into Outspace.
Yeah, I'll be right there with you.
Yeah, we can fangirl together.
I know it's VR, but pretend.
Can you virtually sign my book? So again, this is
I've read every one of his books, so
Oh, absolutely. So this is the first book of a rather long series that he's actually still writing. He's got a couple more books, but he's on book 16. It's the one he's currently writing. If you look at his website, he has a if you ask me if book 16 is out yet, click here, and it's a countdown with like 32,000 days remaining. So it's going to be a little while.
Yeah,
but
he's in
I
the middle
will.
of a couple different series, and he still writes short stories for. There's like what 20 short stories for.
There's not
Doesn't
only
count?
the short stories. He also has his comic book, graphic novel.
Yeah, graphic novels. Yeah.
So he's got the graphic novel. He is in umpteenth, I don't even know how many anthologies. I actually just bought one I bought one because every time he's in an anthology, they put his name really big on the cover so that people know Jim Butcher's in an anthology. But bought one that a lot of my favorite writers wrote a book from the enemy's perspective, or their protagonist's perspective. Antagonist. So he did actually Marcone. He wrote a story from Marcone's point of view, which is really cool.
Good.
So
Good.
this is
And
your
a RPG.
urban fantasy. Yep, he's got his RPG. He's currently traveling right now. He's got cons coming, so he'll be doing his cons. And basically, this one has the nice short and sweet description. So for Harry Dresden, Chicago's only professional wizard, business, to put it mildly, stinks. So when the police bring him in to consult on a grisly double murder committed with black magic, Harry's seeing dollar signs. But where there's black magic, there's a black mage behind it, and now the mage knows Harry's name. So this is a 4.4 out of 5. It's got a gajillion and a half reviews, and Jim Butcher's got a big following. So that's kind of give you that option there. And our last option, Armada. So to stick with our VR theme, since we're doing a VR book club, we got another VR book, also written by Ernest Cline, also audible by Will Wheaton. So that's really cool. Oh, my hand froze. That's weird. Come on, hand. What an awful time for my batteries to die. Okay. So it's a literary RPG because yes, VR plays a huge part in it. but it is also very sci-fi, space and aliens and all that cool stuff. So here's some squeals. So if you're a sci-fi fan, and I've actually just, my hands froze again. Don't, just ignore it.
Walk over
So-
here, just leave your hands up.
If you're a sci-fi fan, this would be a good option for you. It's available in every format, ranging from I think like $6 to $22, something like that. Not as good as Stars, if I'm being honest. This one only has 3.6 out of 5, but it's got like 22. Oh, no, it's only got 2,000 reviews. Wrong one.
Oh, wait, keep it in that. My mistake.
Well, and that could be
It's,
because Ready Player One was so good. Sometimes people are really pissed off when
They usually read Ready Player One first, yeah, and then
Yeah.
that's kind of the thing. So, but I will give you guys the brief description on this as soon as I pull it up, because Amazon's my friend. Of course, it starts out from the author of Ready Player One. All right, Zach Lightman has never cared for reality. He vastly prefers the countless science fiction movies, books, and video games he spent his life consuming. And too often he catches himself wishing that some fantastic, impossible, world-altering event could arrive to whisk him off in a great spacefaring adventure. So when he sees the flying saucer, he's sure his years of escapism have finally tipped him into madness. Especially because the alien ship he's staring at is straight out of his favorite video game, a flight simulator called Armada, in which gamers just happen to be protecting Earth from alien invaders. As impossible as it seems, what Zach's seeing is all too real, and it's just the first in a blur of revelations that will force him to question everything he thought he knew about Earth's history, its future, even his own life, and to play the hero for real with humanity's life in the balance. But even through the terror and exhilaration, he can't help thinking, doesn't something about this scenario feel a little bit, well, fiction? At once reinventing and playing homage to science fiction classics, Armada is a rollicking, surprising thriller, a coming-of-age adventure, and an alien invasion tale like nothing you've ever read before. So since I started this, kind of, I started reading this before I decided to put it into book club, just because it was Ernest Cline, and I really like Ready Player One. And I have to say, Will Wheaton does a better job narrating Armada than he does Ready Player One. He does a really good job with the characters, the voices, the excitement, the shouting. He gets actually loud sometimes. It was really, really cool. So if you liked reading him in Ready Player One, you're probably going to like listening to the Audible more in Armada, because he just did it. I haven't finished it yet, but he's doing an awesome job so far. And I'm like really getting into it. And like, I'm sitting at work with like my headphones in, and like he gets really into it, and then I crack up, and then people look at me funny. So, so that's your book. So take a couple minutes, think about what ones you want, and while you're doing that, I'm going to change my batteries, and then we'll come back and we'll vote. So take about 5 minutes, guys, and try to figure out what you want. Those of you with hands can grab your book, because I'll count them and you hold them up. If you don't have hands, I'm just probably going to ask for emojis instead of making you all move around and stuff. So, all right, 5 minutes or less, depending how long it takes to change my batteries.
I can't grab these books. It's so weird.
So
Yeah, 'cause I can grab it from, like, all the way
vote
up
on
here.
one book and everybody reads it for the next round.
Maybe if I leave and come back. Maybe if I leave and come back.
It's
I'll
called
be right back.
Valkyrie, not Armada.
Maybe I'm glitching.
Hello.
What kind of world do we live in with DVR users can't grab books?
Ah!
Didn't fix it.
What?
So weird. Ah.
Well, which book do you want? I'll hold it up for you. I can hold up two. I can hold one in each hand.
I was saying that game isn't called Armada. It's called Valkyrie.
I think I'm gonna go with this one. This one sounded pretty good right here.
In the book.
No, I'm saying in the actual
There you go.
game.
All right, we got two.
That's similar.
In Oculus store. No, I don't know.
Follow.
Valkyrie.
Fingers.
Yeah.
Where would we be standing? So I can like hold it
Ryan
over your
No,
head.
it's not.
Okay.
It's
let's
not called
stand right
Valkyrie.
here.
It's called Elite
Ryan
Dangerous.
Yes.
Oh,
all day, every
shit.
day. It's too much of a pain.
Were you in 2D
Hook up the
yesterday?
headset. Yeah.
Have you guys heard of
Oh.
this
Yeah, my arms are hurting.
for
I'll
Ready
wait till
Player
we're
One
ready
comes
to-
out?
Yeah,
Written
it's
by
gonna
the
be a
guys
little
who
while.
Whoa.
I'm up here for 10
I'm
minutes.
in the
Ready Player
books,
One
and nobody
comes
can
out.
pick them up. Sorry, guys. Let me.
I'm
Have
having
you heard the
Back
one
up.
with The
Sorry.
Rock Johnson, The Rock Dwayne Johnson, and the one slur?
Shannon, for some reason, I can't pick up a book. I don't know why. So Matt's holding my book for me. He's got two. He's got mine.
You can't pick them up.
I think
It's
we should
weird,
do
yeah.
Oh,
I can't pick
accidental
them.
teleport. That happens to me all the time.
It's just
I
me,
wonder
though.
why
Everyone
you
else
can't.
can grab them, so I don't know why.
Did you
I
put your
can't.
hand like right into the
I'm gonna
stack?
do it. I'm gonna read you. So.
Yeah. Ah. It's weird.
You know, you've been down there for a while with Shayla, and that's kind of creepy.
How did you get down there? He's like the clown from it.
And you're back.
How does she get down there? She's been down
She's
there
looking up my
before.
skirt. Are you looking at my skirt?
Hey.
Is that revive? Like,
All right, guys, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna start our votes. It looks like everyone's kind of already decided. So if you picked sacrifice, I'm gonna ask you to hold up your book and or emojis. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah, pretend your hand's in it.
I'm looking for my
6. All right, we got
See, it
6
works,
for
it's fine.
sacrifice. Perfect.
Oh,
All right. I am watching you. Hands or books, or so yes, emojis or book. We've got 1, 2, 2. Sorry, I am watching you. Maybe another week.
Oh, really, guys?
You can
Sounded
Alright.
good though. I know it did.
Stormfronts. Books or emojis for Stormfronts?
It's so good though.
Alright.
But
I don't know about
It's okay.
that
It's okay,
Levi
Jim.
shit,
I still love you.
boy.
yeah.
All
yeah.
right.
I hope he
And-
understands that why I didn't vote for it.
Books or emojis for Armada?
If I can't have the other one,
2,
then I'd rather have that.
4.
You don't get to vote twice. You voted for the other one.
Fine.
Hush.
All right. I need a tiebreaker because we've got
Fascist.
6 for sacrifice and we've got 6 for Armada. So I need somebody from the back to come grab a book. Ben, why don't you come grab a book? I need a tiebreaker.
I'll take it.
Armada, Ben. Armada.
I wasn't
Armada.
paying attention.
Sacrifice.
And for those of you that don't know, this is Ben. Ben did my books. He's a wizard, and he's my favorite wizard of all time. And he does
Oh, so
these
he
books
should
for
vote
me.
for Stormfront
And
then. This is
and
his
so I think, and so, and I think everybody should give him like a round of applause and some cheers for being super super awesome and making these
Yay,
books for us. So thank you so
Thanks,
much,
Ben.
Ben. I really appreciate it. Yay! Now pick a book.
I want to read this.
Pick this one.
No,
Or this one, or this one, or this one. Or no,
Armada.
this one, or this one.
Armada. Yeah, one of the two.
Storm.
Stormfront.
Whatever.
Armada it is!
Lame.
All right, so
All right, Will Wheaton, here we come.
yes. So again, Will Wheaton is going to be reading to all of us again. If you decide to do Audible, which I'm doing, again, he is fantastic. I like him so much better in this one than Ready Player One, and he did a good job at Ready Player One. So that's kind of saying something. And the book so far is very interesting. Like I said, I started it just because it was an Ernest Cline book and it was VR, and I'm super excited. And I think it's a little bit shorter than Ready Player One. Not that I'm saying that to you in particular.
Ready Player One. Shut up.
But I know a lot of you guys signed up for your Audible free trial to get Ready Player One. If you haven't used your second credit yet, you can use your second credit for this, because that's what I did. And if you are an Audible subscriber, of course, you get your 1 credit. You can get this one. So that's all set for you. Again, if you don't know, you can do an Audible free trial. You get 2 free books that you can get, so you can choose that as one of them. Again, also, don't forget we have our Goodreads page, where I've got different form topics for each like genre. So kind of start throwing in, some books that you guys may want to read underneath the genre specific titles. We can choose based off that way. Right now, we don't have too many suggestions, so I haven't used it yet. Once we start getting more and people start liking the books that have already been suggested, I can get a better idea of where we want to go for the next couple of books we're going to read. So go there. I'll post it on our Facebook page, which is Altspace Pals on Facebook, and I'll post it on the Altspace Discord as well, so you'll be able to get the Goodreads link. And I think that's pretty much it. Does anyone have anything else they want to add?
Yes, for everyone.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
Okay.
I graduated high school and I took all my stuff. I loved it.
Oh, there we go.
Oh,
I listened to it twice.
oh yeah, it's a real deal.
I went to YouTube and I went and made a playlist of all the things he mentions in the book, so that you can listen to the music while he's talking about the song.
Oh, that's so
look
cool.
Up the thing about the robots or whatever. So I really
That's
enjoyed it.
awesome. So you enjoyed it then?
Oh yeah, it was one of
Yeah.
my favorite books I've read in ever probably.
Oh, you?
Cool.
Yeah, I must have really hit home for you.
Through people.
Yeah, it was perfect.
What do you guys think about the trailer for the movie though, compared to the book?
Looks different.
I'm interested to see in what direction the movie goes.
Well, obviously they're not
Because-
going to have a movie about like them
This
playing
guy
video
playing an
games.
arcade
You know,
game. Yeah.
here I'm playing. You know, it's like Joust. You know, they had to like spruce it up. You know,
Right.
duh. You know, it just wouldn't. It wouldn't
Pixelated
translate.
ostriches.
Yeah, it wouldn't translate well to movie. But the music for the trailer when they use the Willy Wonka
Rush?
music.
Oh, really?
No, yeah, they use the Rush, but the Willy Wonka music, it was great. Because Willy Wonka was big for anybody who grew up in the 70s and 80s. You know.
Definitely.
Megan, you had your hand up.
Yes. So when I texted you, if anyone has like library access, like you can get to a library, there's an app called Overdrive where you can actually check out the books in the app, and it's kind of like a Kindle, but you can get them for free that way. So you don't have to get an Audible account or buy them off of Amazon or whatever.
The only
And
downside-
that
I
has
do
waiting
all the
lists for some books, right?
Some, yeah, but
So-
Armada, mine didn't have one for.
Okay.
So it depends
Perfect. So
on the
there's
library.
So I would suggest if you guys want to go that direction, you probably try to do it soon in case there is a couple day waiting list. That way you have time to get it and get it read before the next book club meeting.
Yeah, so I was gonna say sometimes you have to wait for a while.
Yeah.
I bought Ready Player One because of that.
What's that?
Yeah. I bought Ready Player One because of the wait list, but
Oh yeah.
Armada doesn't have that wait. I think it's
Oh,
because
okay.
it was so popular.
Right.
Or the movie and stuff that happens.
Right.
Yeah.
Anybody else want to mention anything? Nope. So it looks like we're all good. I will see you guys then in 2 weeks. If you aren't on the Facebook or the Discord and you want the link for the Goodreads, if you see me around, you can message it to me. I'll go ahead and send it to you. And that's about it. So happy reading, guys. I hope you enjoy Armada, because so far I am. And then I don't know if I'm going to leave these up or if I'm going to swap them all out, because this one doesn't seem to be getting much votes. Sorry, Matt.
I know. That's right. I read it already.
Read it same, like 3 times.
Oh yes.
I could
So,
get that
I'm
Goodreads link.
I'll vote for it next time.
Well, if anything, you got a little bit of background on some cool books maybe you want to check out on your own too, which is kind of part of why I wanted to give you guys a selection. So, like, we picked Armada, but you know what? I think I want to read this one too. So I'm gonna go get this one for $2.99 on Amazon because it's only $2.99. And yeah, etc. So, I'll see you guys in 2 weeks, and yeah, have a good one, guys. Thanks for coming. I really appreciate it. And thanks, Ben, again, for the books. You rock.
Shannon. Thanks, Ben. Thanks,
It was fun, Shannon, thanks.
You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome.
Shannon, I can't figure out the Goodreads thing. I've tried to find it several times. I can't figure it out.
Are you on the, I'm gonna turn my megaphone off. Yeah, are you on the Altspace Pals Facebook?
How do you turn your megaphone on?
What?
We have a group
To be
on
a moderator.
Oh, you have to be a
Facebook. It's
moderator,
called
okay.
Altspace
That
Pals.
makes sense. 'cause I'm like,
If you
geez, I'm
search
hitting it.
it,
I'm like, is there something?
Yeah, I'll
I'm
post it on there right after the show. So that way you can just go and click the link and then sign up for the Goodreads.
I want to.
Matt, you don't need to be louder.
Right. I know.
Hey, Shannon, if you could send me the information for the Discord, that'd be fantastic.
Absolutely.
No,
I
you're
can
not
get
too
you.
loud. You're
Yeah,
good.
Oculus doesn't have a.
You're not currently on the Discord, right?
Yeah, I think the Oculus software
The
tries to
Allspace
keep me
Discord?
regulated.
No, not
Right.
at all.
Okay. I can grab a link for you.
I really got to watch
and-
the Oculus keynote
Here,
stuff.
add me. I'm gonna send you a
I'm,
message
like,
with my Altspace
Excited
tag.
from what Matt
Or
was
not
talking
Altspace
about
tag,
earlier.
my,
Where is he?
Discord
There he
tag.
is.
If I gotta remember what it is. 'Cause I don't
Oh,
remember
yeah,
what it is.
that,